Live from New Delhi, you're watching the India News, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Coming up in the next hour. Probe ordered in Stampede incident at a religious gathering in Hathras in India's Uttar Pradesh that has claimed 121 lives. Prime Minister Narendra Modi expresses condolences, assures all help. US President Joe Biden faces voices of dissent from within the party. It says 25 House Democrats prepare to call for Biden to step aside. Trump hush money sentencing delayed to September, less than 7 weeks before the US election. In France, chances of Marine Le Pen's in winning an outright majority dented. Over 200 opposition candidates pull out of the race to block far right in Sunday's second round of voting. And India's S&P BSE Sensex crosses the 80,000 mark for the first time, while Nifty 50 index surged to 169 points in opening trade. On to the details now. The death toll in the tragic incident in North India's Hathras has risen to 121. 18 injured are being treated at various hospitals. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath have announced financial assistance of rupees 200,000 each to the family of the deceased. PM Modi also expressed his condolences and wished for the speedy recovery of the injured. He spoke with Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath following the tragedy and assured that all necessary help would be provided to the victims. The Chief Minister has formed a team to inquire into the causes of the tragedy, which has been directed to submit its report within 24 hours. The Chief Secretary and the Director General of Police of the state visited the Stampede site. The state government said the number of devotees attending the religious event were more than that permitted by the administration. According to the police, the deceased mostly included women and children. Meanwhile, a case has been filed against the organizers of the religious event in Hathras. According to the FIR, permission was granted for 80,000 people, but more than 2.5 lakh devotees attended the event. They have been charged under Section 105, 110, 126(2), 223 and 238 of the new Criminal Code of Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. And moving on, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will reply to the motion of thanks on the President's address in the Upper House of Parliament today. The first session of the 18th Lok Sabha was adjourned sine die on Tuesday, marking the conclusion of a productive legislative period that saw significant developments. The session, which commenced on 24th June, comprised 7 sittings over a span of 34 hours, achieving a commendable productivity rate of 103%. And ET India's Dibyendu Mondal joins us for more on this. Well, Dibyendu, good morning. The first session of the 18th Lok Sabha was adjourned yesterday. The session was quite productive. Can you give us an overall?
Good morning. Very good morning, Lipakshi. First, the first sitting of the 18th Lok Sabha was adjourned sine die last evening after the reply of the Prime Minister in the motion of thanks to the President's inaugural address. So, of course, it has achieved 103% productivity rate, a sitting of over a couple of days, which began with the oath-taking ceremony and the registration of all the newly elected members of Parliament, which followed by the election of the Speaker and then the presidential address. And then, of course, the debate on the motion of thanks to the President's inaugural address. 18 hours, in fact, 16 hours was dedicated, but the debate stretched to about 18 hours with, the concluding remark being given by the Prime Minister during his speech on the motion of thanks. The motion of thanks was passed with the majority without any amendments by the Lok Sabha. as we witnessed last evening. So, of course, 103% productivity rate in the first sitting of the 18th Lok Sabha perhaps gives the sense that, the 18th Lok Sabha will be much more productive than what we have witnessed in the previous many years.
Right.
So, of course, a lot positivity coming in from the first inaugural session of the parliament here.
Right, a lot of positivity coming in there. Also, Debindu, today Prime Minister is to reply to the motion of thanks on the President's address in the upper house of Parliament. What all can be expected?
Well, Lipakshi, yesterday, we saw the Prime Minister replying to the motion of thanks in the Lok Sabha. Similarly, it is the custom where the Prime Minister will also reply in the upper house, which is the Rajya Sabha. So, of course, the speech is likely to be on the similar lines where the Prime Minister will lay out the vision of his government over the next 5 years. He's also likely to talk about, his achievements, his government's achievements over the last 10 years. Yesterday, when Prime Minister mentioned that, 25 crore people were uplifted from poverty over the last 10 years, housing provided to 4 crore households over the last 10 years. The government is committed to provide 3 crore more houses to the people of to the marginalized section of the society over the next 5 years, how his government is likely to increase the speed of development by 3x, because this is the third time that the people have given mandate to the Modi government. So, of course, all these aspects would feature in the Prime Minister's speech. Also, the Prime Minister would give point-by-point rebuttal to the allegations or to the claims made by the opposition in the upper house, which is the Rajya Sabha. The leader of opposition in the upper house is Mallikarjun Kharge from the Congress. The Prime Minister will likely reply to all the points raised by the opposition parties. This is a custom. So, of course, today's speech is also likely to be over, 1.5 hours to 2 hours, as we witnessed in the Lok Sabha yesterday. Dipakshi.
All right, Debindu, thank you so much for that update from there. And moving on, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar met Deputy Prime Minister of Kazakhstan Murat Nartileo in Astana on Tuesday. Both leaders discussed expanding strategic partnership and India's increasing engagement with Central Asia in various formats. Dr. S. Jaishankar also exchanged views on regional and global issues with his counterpart. Dr. Jaishankar also thanked Kazakh Deputy PM and Finance Minister for the hospitality and arrangements for the SCO Council of Heads of State Summit. Dr. S. Jaishankar will represent India at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit in Astana. Kazakhstan is hosting the summit in its capacity as the current chair of the grouping. India was the chair of the SCO last year. It hosted the SCO Summit in the virtual format in July last year. And for more, DD India's Akshay Dongre joins us on this. Well, Akshay, good morning. India's External Affairs Minister Jaishankar met Kazakhstan's Deputy PM yesterday. What were the highlights of the meet?
Well, yes, absolutely, Lipakshi. In fact, the External Affairs Minister has reached Ankara, in fact, for this particular SCO summit that's going to take place today and tomorrow. And in fact, Kazakhstan being the president of this year's SCO summit, it's quite important to see how the Central Asian countries are going to voice their opinions as far as the region is concerned. It's not just about the Central Asian region, but also about the persisting issues of the wars that are going on, that are impacting the economy as a whole of the world. We have cross-border terrorism as one of the key issues that was raised by India when it was holding the presidency of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization last year, and cross-border terrorism, development, self-reliance were the key highlights of that India raised last year. And from there, Kazakhstan is also continuing on the same sort of priorities as far as the region is concerned. Now, this is perhaps one of the only world multilateral forums where countries like India, China and Pakistan are all part of the group, and that's why it becomes quite important for SCO to, in fact, to be a conducive environment for these countries to share their opinions and, in fact, resolve their differences, especially the issue that has been raised by India time and again has been about the financing of cross-border terrorism, about harboring terrorists that has been done historically by Pakistan, and SCO gives a good opportunity for India to in fact have a one-to-one conversation with the Pakistani leadership as well as the Chinese leadership that is one of the founding members of the organizations. So it was in 2017, as you all remember, that both India and Pakistan were admitted to the SCO. They became full-fledged members, when Russia and China both endorsed India and Pakistan. So it remains to be seen that what is going to be on the top of agenda when the meetings takes place tomorrow.
All right, Akshay, thank you so much for that update. And moving on, the Global India AI Summit 2024 will begin in New Delhi from today. It will highlight the Government of India's commitment to the responsible advancement of artificial intelligence. The two-day summit will be inaugurated by India's Minister of Electronics and Information Technology, Ashwini Vaishnaw. The summit aims to host a gathering of international delegates, AI experts and policymakers. The first day will feature a diverse array of sessions designed to delve deep into critical aspects of AI application and governance. The second day will pivot towards nurturing talent and scaling AI innovations. The session, titled Empowering Talent Through AI Education and Skilling, aims to bridge the AI skills gap by spotlighting educational strategies and career pathways. Simultaneously, AI for Global Good, Empowering the Global South, will facilitate dialogues on inclusive AI development, echoing India's advocacy for equitable global AI access. And Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina appreciated India's contribution to Bangladesh's War of Liberation in 1971 during her discussions with Chief of the Naval Staff, Admiral Dinesh K. Tripathi, who was on an official visit to Bangladesh. Discussion also included the progress of ongoing bilateral maritime engagements between the Indian Navy and the Bangladesh Navy. And now let's take a look at other stories making news today. India's first solar mission, Aditya L1 spacecraft, has completed its first halo orbit around the Sun-Earth L1 point. The Indian Space Research Organization has informed the Aditya L1 mission was launched on September 2, 2023 and was inserted in its targeted halo orbit on January 6, 2024. The 38th Hyderabad Sailing Week 2024 has begun on a grand note in the waters of Hussain Sagar Lake. The event is being held under the aegis of EME Sailing Association, Laser Class Association of India and Sikandrabad Sailing Club at Hussain Sagar Lake in Hyderabad. The week-long event is being held in 4 categories. 11-year-old girl Aradhya from Rewari in the Indian state of Haryana has made the nation proud by climbing the 3rd highest mountain, the Kanchenjunga. In an initiative to make the country pollution-free and promote health wellness, 2 men from India's Rajasthan, Vimal Vishnoi and Rahul, have reached Kullu in Himachal Pradesh from Mumbai after cycling for almost 1,850 kilometers. Along with prominent social organizations, the government organized the Nukkad Natak, a street play to educate pilgrims about the importance of cleanliness during the Amarnath Yatra. This awareness initiative, in addition to the ongoing annual Amarnath Yatra that began on June 29, 2024, is also aimed at tourists in general. And still to come, Did India News Hour. With dissent against Biden growing, some pundits suggest Vice President Kamala Harris is a better Democratic candidate than him. UK all set for general elections to be held on the 4th of July. Jamaica braces for Category 4 Hurricane Beryl after leaving a trail of destruction in St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Venezuela. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and moving on, US President Joe Biden is facing candid questions from within. After a disastrous debate night with Republican rival and former President Donald Trump, doubts are now being raised in the party about his ability to lead. Some elected Democrats loyal to Biden have raised fresh questions on Tuesday about his 2024 re-election bid, with one calling for him to step aside. According to sources, there are 25 Democratic members of the House of Representatives preparing to call for Biden to step aside. With pressure rising, some donors have also called for him to step aside, and other Democrats are worrying openly that he's not equipped to beat Trump in November. However, experts say whether Biden continues his 2024 bid for president after his halting debate performance against Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump is largely his decision. Meanwhile, White House has termed Biden's tumbling performance during last week's debate against former U.S. President Donald Trump as a bad night.
What I can say is that, just to take a step back, it was a bad night. We understand that it was a bad night. And the president has spoken to this. And he understands that. And so I cannot speak to anything beyond what I just shared. The president has regular annual physicals that we release in a thorough report. We're going to continue to do that. I don't have anything else beyond that.
Well, fallout from the U.S. presidential debate continues, with some pundits suggesting Vice President Kamala Harris is a better Democratic candidate than Joe Biden. As someone with Indian and Jamaican ancestry, she was the first black woman and South Asian to get into the White House, which appeals to many voters. But Harris has been openly criticized on social media by billionaire Elon Musk, who says she's lying about Donald Trump's policies on abortion. Caroline Mullane reports for more.
The race for the White House took a sharp turn last week after Joe Biden performed so badly in the debate against Donald Trump that Democrats began suggesting he needed to be replaced as their candidate. On his ticket is Vice President Kamala Harris, who is one of the strongest defenders of the president, saying he is still the better character for the job than Trump. Well, she's also been calling for the protection of reproductive rights on social media platform X, warning that Donald Trump would move to ban abortion nationally. That got the attention of the social media owner Elon Musk, who says she is lying. Well, in the debate, Trump took credit for the Supreme Court overturning of the constitutional right to abortion with Roe v. Wade, and said it's good that it's now up to individual states to decide on abortion. In the past, Trump also suggested he likes the idea of a 16-week abortion ban, but that now there's no need for it because the power lies with each state's legislature. Abortion is likely to remain a contentious issue, though, in a nation in which half of the states now have banned or strongly restricted abortion. And it's a strong campaign topic for Democrats like Harris, who know it resonates with voters. Around 2/3 of people say abortion should be legal in most cases. Caroline Malone in Washington, reporting for DD India.
Well, in a major reprieve for former U.S. President Donald Trump, a New York judge postponed his sentencing for covering up hush money payments until 18th of September. The sentencing had previously been set for July 11th, just days before the Republican National Convention begins in Milwaukee on July 15th. The new timeline means Trump will likely have been nominated by his party to challenge Democratic President Joe Biden by the time he is sentenced. The conviction in New York in May made Trump the first former U.S. president ever convicted of a crime. He was found guilty on 34 counts of falsifying business records to cover up hush money payments over his alleged affair with an adult film star in the run-up to the 2016 election. And the UK is just days away from a general election that could see the Conservative Party out of power for the first time in 14 years. Polls suggest Labour Party leader Keir Starmer is likely to be the country's next Prime Minister after the July 4th vote. DD India's Ollie Barrett reports for more from London.
All of the polls currently point in one direction ahead of the UK's election.
So it looks at the moment as if Labour will win and win easily.
That's not to say a win is guaranteed, but Rishi Sunak's Conservatives, in power in one form or another for 14 years, have struggled to eat into the Labour polling lead. So in the days after the election, Keir Starmer could be forming a government with a significant majority here at Parliament. That would bring huge opportunities for the centre-left party, but also huge challenges. After the COVID-19 pandemic, a war in Europe, a cost of living crisis, Britain's finances are creaking.
Well, the big issues facing the government that takes office on the 5th of July is that there are public service improvements needed in the UK, health service, railways, parts of the education system. Economic growth in the UK has been sluggish all the way back to 2008, in fact.
If Labour returns to power, the centre-left party's foreign policy is likely to include quite a lot of continuity with recent years. Relations with India will be a key focus.
We think so. I mean, look, India is the most exciting economic story in the world right now. We are in the middle of the Indian decade, at the start of the Indian century. And I think whoever's in power in the UK will recognise that and want to prioritise the relationship with India.
The Conservatives have also struggled with the rise of the right-wing Reform Party, which promises tougher action on immigration. Reform hopes to win the seaside seat of Clacton on the English south coast. Whatever happens there and elsewhere, it's already clear the makeup of the House of Commons will be very different. Ollie Barrett in London reporting for DD India.
Well, also former Prime Minister Boris Johnson made a surprise appearance in the British election campaign on Tuesday, issuing a last-ditch bid to rally support for the Conservatives and their leader, Rishi Sunak. Johnson won a big majority at the last election in 2019 before being forced to resign in 2022 by a Conservative mutiny which Sunak helped to start and which exposed deep splits in the governing party, not least between Sunak and Johnson. In a speech listing many of his own achievements, Johnson gave little personal endorsement to Sunak but focused on what he said were the dangers of the opposition Labour Party winning power.
"5 years ago, you helped to send Jeremy Corbyn and his then disciple, Keir Starmer, into orbit where they belonged, and we got Brexit done. We restored democracy. We restored democracy to our country, and it was because we got a proper Brexit, and you will all remember how hard that fight was, that we came out of the EU single market and we controlled our own regulation. And my friends, whatever people may say, that national independence was vital when it came to approving COVID vaccines faster than any EU country, and therefore getting the fastest vaccine rollout of any major economy and the fastest economic rebound in the G7.
Well, moving on to France, where left-wing and centrist parties have withdrawn hundreds of candidates from parliamentary elections in an effort to block the far-right party from the gates of power. Over 200 candidates from President Emmanuel Macron's centrist camp and the left-wing alliance have stepped down. The mass exit came before a Tuesday registration deadline before the final runoff vote on Sunday. With no official list yet released, French media reported that between 214 and 218 third-placed contenders had pulled out of the race in their constituencies. It means there will now be around 108 three-way races instead of just over 300. Last Sunday's first round produced a big victory for the party of Marine Le Pen, which won around 33% of the vote. A broad left-wing alliance came second and President Emmanuel Macron's centrist came third. And Hurricane Beryl swept through Grenada and St. Vincent and the Grenadines, leaving many households without power, and is expected to hit Jamaica on Wednesday and the Cayman Islands later in the week. The storm is anticipated to bring a life-threatening storm surge of 5 to 8 feet above normal levels and cause significant flooding. At least 3 people have died and 4 others are missing on Venezuela's Caribbean coast. Beryl left intense rains in the northern state of Sucre, causing a river to overflow, triggering floods. Scientists attribute the unusually early timing and rapid intensification of the storm, the first in this year's Atlantic hurricane season, to warmer ocean temperatures. WMO spokesperson Claire Nullis said it sets a precedent for what is going to be a very active and very dangerous hurricane season, which will impact the entire basin.
Surface temperatures have been at record level, global level, for 14 months now. That is till the end of May. We'll get the figures for June, hopefully, later this week. So we've got very, very warm waters, and we need to bear in mind that it only takes one landfalling hurricane to set back, decades of development. And, we fear what is happening with Hurricane Beryl, which has hit very, very, very small islands in the Caribbean who are not used to this size of hurricane. We fear that, this is going to have a major knock on socioeconomic development.
Well, Jamaican PM Andrew Holness urged the citizens living in lowlands to take shelter as Hurricane Beryl barreled towards the island. Residents of Kingston, Jamaica's capital, were preparing diligently as Hurricane Beryl approached. Holness told Jamaicans to take the hurricane seriously and highlighted the growing impact of climate change and global weather patterns on small islands.
As you can imagine, is dynamic, and the government continues to monitor developments and will provide regular updates. ODPEM is leading the National Disaster Response. The National Emergency Operations Center, the NEOC, has been activated, and all relevant agencies are on high alert.
Well, back in India, the flood situation in northeastern Assam has turned extremely critical as Brahmaputra and many other rivers continue to flow above the danger level. Over 11 lakh people have been affected in 2,028 villages in 28 districts. 3 deaths were reported on Tuesday, taking the death toll to 38 this year. The commercial vehicle movement along the national highway passing through Kaziranga National Park has been prohibited for movement of wildlife animals. The IMD has issued orange alert for all northeastern states and sub-Himalayan West Bengal for today. Also, extremely heavy rainfall has been predicted at isolated places of Assam and Meghalaya and other northeastern states for today and the coming days. And Subina Roy joins us for more from Assam on this. Well, Subina, IMD has issued orange alert for 7 northeast states. What is the current situation right now?
Right. The IMD has issued orange alert for all the northeastern states, and these few days till July 5th for Assam and other northeastern states is extremely crucial as heavy rainfalls is expected to occur and has been continuing, and the heavy downpour and the recent cloudburst in Arunachal Pradesh has resulted in overflowing of rivers in around 11 rivers of Assam. As per the latest NTMA bulletin report, it says that more than 11 rivers in Assam are flowing above danger level, like the Brahmaputra at Tejpur, Jorhat, Guwahati, Dhubri has been flowing above danger level, then Buri Dihing, then Subansiri, Puchimara, Kopili, Deki, Kushiara, Barak, and Dhaleshwari river have been flowing above danger level. Over 11 lakh people have been affected in 28 districts, which 28 districts mainly comprises of the districts in the upper Assam, which include Tinsukia, Dhemaji, Lakhimpur, Dibrugarh. So it is to be seen that these districts in the upper Assam this time in the second wave of flood is the most affected, and around more than 40,000 hectares of crop areas have been inundated. Yesterday, there were human lives lost, where around 2 lives were lost in Tinsukia, 1 life was lost in Dhemaji. Now, talking about embankments, there were breaches in certain embankments yesterday, like the embankment in Buri Dihing, the embankments of Buri Dihing River in Kwang and Hatibonda in Tengakar was breached, inundating the nearby areas, the low-lying areas. Similarly, the embankment in Hatimura was breached, inundating the Kolyabor and the nearby nearby regions. Yesterday, the CM took assessment of the Gulagat and the Kaziranga National Park, and he assured that the embankment works will be done on time, and assured flood relief victims and whatever necessary relief assistance to these flood-affected victims.
Right, Subina, thank you so much for that update from there. And still to come on DD India News Hour. We'll tell you about Blinken and Ukraine's earmark a discussion on Ukraine's NATO bid. Kenya police clash with protesters as tax bill unrest continues. And Brazilian police bust gang for laundering Mexican cartel money. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and moving on, Israel issued the evacuation order for the areas of Khan Yunis and Rafah, which the United Nations has stamped as the largest such edict in the Gaza Strip, since 1.1 million people were told to leave the north of the enclave in October. UN spokesman Stephen Dujarric had said an evacuation of such a massive scale will only heighten the suffering of the civilians.
Yesterday, orders for evacuation of 117 square kilometers in Khan Yunis and Rafah governorates applied to about a third of the Gaza Strip, making it the largest such order since October, when residents were ordered to evacuate northern Gaza. OCHA underscores that an evacuation of such a massive scale would only heighten the suffering of civilians and drive humanitarian needs even higher. People are left with the impossible choice of having to relocate, some most likely for the second or even the third time, to areas that have barely any space or services, or stay in an area where they know the fighting will take place. Initial estimates by UNRWA indicates that nearly 250,000 people may have resided in the areas that are subject to the evacuation at the time the order was given.
Well, Tel Aviv has said that its campaign in Gaza was a long campaign through which Israel will accomplish its missions. The statement came when Israeli military chief of staff Herzi Halevi visited the Karim Shalom and an advanced logistics center established in the Gaza Strip. Halevi said that 900 Hamas terrorists have been killed by Israeli forces in the Rafah brigade, and the current effort was focused on destroying terrorist underground infrastructure, which takes time. Israeli forces bombarded several areas of the southern Gaza Strip on Tuesday in what could be part of a final push for Israel's intensive military operations in 9 months of conflict.
The current effort and the reason we are working here week after week is now focused on the destruction of the terrorist infrastructure and the destruction of the underground infrastructure, which takes time. Therefore, this is a long campaign because we do not want to leave Rafah with the infrastructure intact.
And amid the Israel-Gaza conflict, misery continues for the affected. Freed hostage Noa Argamani attended her mother's funeral on Tuesday, less than a month after her rescue from Gaza. Argamani's terminally ill mother, Leora, had been hospitalized and was waiting for her daughter's return in hope to see her. Hours after her release, Argamani was able to see her mother, who was in a hospital in Tel Aviv, and was able to communicate with her mother, and she understood that her daughter had come home. Argamani was rescued on June 8th along with 3 other hostages in an operation by Israeli special forces from an apartment building in central Gaza. And shifting focus to Russia-Ukraine conflict now, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has said that Ukraine will become a member of NATO and that the NATO summit will help build a bridge to that outcome. Blinken and top Zelensky aide Andriy Yermak discussed NATO members' intention to bring Ukraine closer to the alliance on Tuesday. They also discussed helping to strengthen Ukraine's ability to defend against Russian aggression, along with the efforts led by the G7 nations to enhance the resiliency of Ukraine's energy grid. The meeting came before a NATO summit in the U.S. capital next week, at which Ukraine hopes to secure more assurances from the alliance on its membership bid. And Russia attacked on the central Ukrainian city of Nikopol on Tuesday. Governor Serhiy Lysak reported that the attack killed 2 women and wounded 9 other people. Lysak added the attacks damaged residential housing, educational facilities and a clinic in the city that lies across the Dnipro River from the Russian-occupied Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant. Nikopol has been subjected to aerial attacks since the start of Russia-Ukraine conflict. And during a meeting with the Ukrainian counterpart at the Pentagon, U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said the United States will soon announce more than $2.3 billion in new security assistance for Ukraine on Tuesday. Austin said the latest weapons package for Ukraine would include arms like anti-tank weapons and air defense interceptors and will allow accelerated procurement of NASAMS and Patriot air defense interceptors. Austin also gave a nod to Ukraine's aspirations to eventually join NATO. He said U.S. will take steps to build a bridge to NATO membership for Ukraine at next week's NATO summit in Washington, D.C.
Now, as we look ahead to the NATO summit next week, Rustam, we'll take steps to build a bridge to NATO membership for Ukraine. Just weeks ago, President Zelensky and President Biden signed a crucial 10-year bilateral security agreement. And that reflects our strong and enduring support for Ukraine. So I look forward to discussing more ways to meet Ukraine's immediate security needs and to build a future force to ward off more Russian aggression.
And U.S. officials said Biden administration remains open to dialogue with the Venezuelan government on Tuesday after President Nicolas Maduro said he had agreed to restart direct talks ahead of the presidential election in Venezuela on July 28th. They added U.S. had previously indicated it welcomed discussions in good faith.
We, of course, welcome dialogue in good faith, and we support the Venezuelan people's desire for competitive and inclusive elections on July 28th. And we are clear-eyed that democratic change will not be easy and certainly requires a serious commitment. We're going to continue to work with the international community and democratic actors in Venezuela to support the aspirations of the Venezuelan people. I will also just add that in our viewpoint, it continues to be the case that the full implementation of the Barbados Agreement offers the best path to restore the democracy that Venezuelans deserve, improve economic and humanitarian conditions, as well as address the migration crisis as well.
Also, a Russian warship arrived on Venezuela's coast hours after Nicolas Maduro announced renewed talks between his government and the U.S. Moscow's defense ministry said 2 Russian naval ships docked in Venezuela for a stopover of a few days, highlighting the close ties between the 2 countries. Russia said the main aim of the ship's visit to the region was to show the flag and ensure a naval presence in operationally important areas of the Atlantic Ocean. The ships visited Cuba last month along with the Russian nuclear-powered submarine. The visit came as Maduro is seeking re-election in a July 28th vote. And protest in Kenya's capital, Nairobi, continued on Tuesday in other cities across the country, with protesters demanding the resignation of President William Ruto. The protests follow a week of deadly clashes over a $2.7 billion of tax hikes in a proposed finance bill. Our African correspondent Leon Siniaj reports for more.
Kenyan police fired tear gas at protesters in the capital Nairobi on Tuesday as protesters have remained unrelenting in their demands. They are demanding changes in what they have described as rampant corruption and governance under President Ruto. They are also demanding that the president steps down. The protests have since expanded into a national movement. Hundreds of protesters in the coastal city of Mombasa were also reported to have staged demonstrations. There were protests in other towns of Kajiado, Kisumu, as well as Nakuru. An internet outcry against the roughly $2.7 billion in tax increases in a planned finance bill sparked the protests last week. Kenya's National Commission on Human Rights says at least 39 people have so far died in the protests. Leon Senyange reporting in Kampala, Uganda for DD India.
Well, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken pledged continued support for the newly formed Haitian government on Tuesday as Haiti battles a deep humanitarian crisis fueled by armed gangs. Haitian Prime Minister Gary Conilla and Foreign Minister Dominic Depy met with Blinken at the State Department in Washington, D.C. Earlier, the Biden administration had said that it will award nearly $110 million in security and police assistance to Haiti. Freshly deployed Kenyan police officers have recently begun patrolling the Haitian capital of Port-au-Prince as part of a UN-backed mission to battle armed gangs that have taken over the capital. And a Malaysian court dismissed a jailed former Prime Minister Najib Razak's legal bid to obtain a document that he said would allow him to serve his remaining prison sentence under house arrest. Earlier on April 1st, Najib said an addendum order issued by the former king had accompanied a pardons board's decision in February to halve his 12-year jail sentence for graft in the multi-billion-dollar scandal. The Kuala Lumpur High Court found there was no merit to the former Premier's bid and that the government had no legal duty to respond to the application. The Taiwan Coast Guard has said that Chinese officials boarded and then seized a Taiwanese fishing boat operating near China's coast close to a Taiwan-controlled island and took it to Chinese port on Tuesday. Taiwanese Coast Guard official added that the fishing boat was operating near the Taiwan-administered Kinmen Islands. Taiwan sent its own Coast Guard ships to assist and broadcast warnings asking China to release the fishing boat, but China's ships broadcast back saying not to interfere. Taiwan ships then backed off to avoid a conflict, and the Taiwanese fishing vessel was then taken to a Chinese port. And now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. Brazilian police said on Tuesday they broke up an organization that allegedly laundered $970 million in money derived from selling cocaine to Mexican cartels and other markets. The proceeds were laundered in Brazil by investing in real estate companies and the purchase of 240 luxury cars. Police seized 35 cars and 12 planes, including an Embraer Phenom executive jet. Volunteers in a town near the Philippine capital, Manila, have come up with a unique way to educate local residents about the importance of environmental protection by exchanging plastic trash for rice. The project is funded by donations from private individuals and small companies that advocate for marine conservation. The area has seen an increase in the amount of trash washing up along its shores each year. Crimean artist Yota Donsko delves deep into the sea to perform underwater painting that helps him to capture a closeness to reality that he believes only a creative mind is able to see with clarity. Dotsenko was inspired by Frenchman André Laban, the first underwater artist in history. A Santiago Zoo introduced a baby white rhinoceros born in their premises to visitors on Tuesday. The crowd of onlookers were all excited watching the youngling run alongside his mother inside their enclosure. In recent times, white rhinos are facing threats of poaching and habitat loss in South Africa, with 500 killed last year for their haunts. And still to come, DD India News Hour. Blockbuster football action awaits fans as quarter-final ties decided for Euro 2024 after Netherlands and Turkey make it to quarter-finals. The much-awaited Team India is likely to return home today after hurricane disruption. An International Plastic Bag-Free Day being observed across the globe today.
Voice
voice of a rising aspirational world. Stories of challenges, struggles and accomplishment. A world battling conflict, hunger and poverty. Embracing growth, development, science and technology. A voice of progress, a voice of unity. Watch Voice of the Global South with me, Akshay Dongre, only on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Kurana and time now for some sports news. Turkey's Meri Demirel struck in each half and their goalkeeper Mert Günok pulled off a superb stoppage time save as they secured a high-octane 2-1 victory over Austria to book their spot in Euro 2024's last 8. The central defender scored after 57 seconds and added another with a powerful header just before the hour to set up a quarter-final in Berlin against the Netherlands. Celebrations broke out across many cities in Germany at the final whistle as thousands of Turks took to the streets, with their national team eyeing a repeat of their Euro 2008 semi-final run. For tournament dark horses Austria, it was a bitter end to the European Championship, with the team still waiting for their first win in a knockout match at any major tournament since 1954. And Netherlands' Cody Gakpo scored his third goal of the European Championship and Donald Malen added 2 more late on as the Dutch burst back into form with a lively display to defeat Romania 3-0 in their last 16 fixture. They reached the Euro quarterfinals for the first time since 2008. Gakpo was a menace all night and turned provider for Melan's first goal in the 83rd minute. Malen notched his second in stoppage time. Romania created just a few chances in the match and never looked a serious threat as the Netherlands controlled possession and waited for opportunities to get forward. The Dutch had 2/3 of possession and almost 5 times more chances with 24 attempts in the game to underline their superiority. Well, the final 16 of Euros 2024 has now been whittled down to the last 8 after Turkey scored a 2-1 win against Austria and Dutch beat Romania 3-0. With the arrival of the quarterfinals, teams are now busy preparing off the pitch for several big clashes this weekend. From Berlin, DD India correspondent Trent Murray has more.
Well, if you've ever wondered how an elite football team rests and recovers before a big match, well, we've been given some insight. Take a look at these photos. This is from the England squad going through their recovery classes at their very lush-looking resort, I have to say, here in Germany as they prepare for their match against Switzerland on Saturday. It's part yoga, part meditation, part physical recovery. Take a look at the video released by the England team.
Let me breathe out. So when we're looking at rest and recovery, you really want to be going the other way. How do we switch off? And breathing is the best tool that you've got.
Well, that's how one team is preparing for this weekend. Another team, Germany, well, they are facing a lot of pressure here in the host nation. Now, they will take on Spain on Friday night, and already some newspapers here are talking about whether the Germans can break the so-called Spanish curse. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, Spain and Germany are the 2 most successful teams at European Championship level. They both have won 3 trophies each over the tournament's history, but the most recent history hasn't been so kind to Germany. In fact, you have to go back 36 years to find a time when they were able to beat Spain at that level. The team here is saying that they do have the squad to be able to do it this time. As I say, it all kicks off 6 p.m. local time here on Friday in Germany. One imagines there may be some bosses across this country giving their employees an early mark to let them get out to the bar and have a cool beverage and watch the host nation play. The host nation also, just briefly, facing a few troubles on the administrative front. We are hearing UEFA, the organisers of this tournament, have fined the country $20,000 for security failures, specifically preventing pitch invaders, in other words, people running onto the field, taking photos with superstar Cristiano Ronaldo. We've seen that several times. Clearly, the organisers, UEFA, not happy with that. They're telling the Germans to up the game when it comes to security. We'll have to see how that all plays out this weekend when those crucial quarter-final matches take place. Trent Murray for DD India, Berlin.
And Brazil has decided to celebrate National King Pelé Day on November 19th every year to mark the date when the soccer great is believed to have scored 1,000th goal of his career in 1969. Brazil's President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva has passed a law that sanctions the national tribute to the three-time World Cup winner. The Brazilian soccer great died on December 29, 2022 at the age of 82 on November 19, 1969. Pelé scored a goal for Santos from the penalty spot in a 2-1 win against Vasco da Gama. Although some soccer historians question whether that actually was the 1,000th goal of his career. The South American nation was then under a military dictatorship that started in 1964 and only ended in 1985. And defending champion Marketa Vondrousova was knocked out in the first round of Wimbledon. She has become the first female holder to fall at the opening hurdle since Steffi Graf 30 years ago. Czech Vondrousova became the first unseeded woman to lift the title last year. She was defeated 6-4, 6-2 by Spain's Jessica Bozas Menero. Ranked world number 83, Bozas Menero had won only one tour-level match all year heading into Wimbledon. Russian six-seed Andrei Rublev crashed out of Wimbledon in the first round, losing 6-4, 5-7, 6-2, 7-6 to world number 122 Francisco Comisano of Argentina. Comisano was playing his first match at a Grand Slam. Rublev frequently lost his temper, screamed out loud and ranted at his courtside coaching team. And wait is finally over for Indian cricket fans. Their T20 World Cup winning team is likely to come home today evening from the West Indies. The Rohit Sharma-led side's travel plan was impacted by the Hurricane Beryl in Barbados after a grueling month-long T20 World Cup. The team recently emerged victorious in the first World Cup in either format since the 2011. Members of the squad, support staff and their families have been stranded on the island for the past 2 days due to flight cancellations. Hurricane Beryl has hit this part of the world on Monday with high intensity. As a precautionary measure, the entire island was shut down for 2 days, forcing the players to remain confined to their hotel. And in business news, Indian benchmark indices achieved a new historic milestone in the early morning trade today. The S&P Bombay Stock Exchange Sensitive Index surpassed the 80,000 mark for the first time, while the Nifty 50 reached a fresh all-time high of 24,292, approaching the 24,300 level. Sensex hit the 80,000 mark, led by gains in banking, consumer durables and capital goods shares. And Shama Mishra joins us for more from Mumbai on this. Well, Shama, BSE Sensex crosses a new historic milestone of 80,000 for the first time. What are the top performing sectors among the sectoral indices?
Well, Lipakshi, we understand that this particular moment was awaited, and for a very long time, the experts were believing that this particular record number, the 80,000 mark, and for NSE Nifty, the 25,000 mark would be achieved soon, somewhere around the post-results dates. But it didn't happen, but soon it happened, and the experts were believing that this would take place around the budget dates, and it has happened. The Sensex, BSE Sensex has crossed 80,000 mark, and it's a good welcome moment for all the traders, for all the experts. Now we are talking about the sectors which have done positively well, which have outperformed. So this is the banking sector, engineering. These all sectors have performed well, and if you are to remember that some days back it was the Bank Nifty which had led the rally, and it was even in Bank Nifty it was the private banks that had led the rally. Soon we understand that even the PSU banks were performing good, and all these sectors we are saying that again and again, these are sectors which is associated to the country, which is associated to nation. And that is why we are seeing this kind of outperformance. We are also talking about NSE Nifty, which has crossed the 24,250 mark, and this is also a new record high. The experts are believing that there is a more bigger rally from here on, but everyone needs to be patient. The investor needs to be patient and not rush into the trading. And it is also expected that around some days around the budget announcement, and it will have a bigger rally. So we are also hoping that Indian markets will see a better performance in days to come, and we are also hoping that this would be a sustained rally.
Right, Sharma, thank you so much for that update from there. And moving on, International Plastic Bag Free Day is being observed across the globe today. Plastic continues to be a growing threat to the nature, with about 400 million tons of plastic waste being generated annually. India has remained committed to curb the usage of plastic across the country right from the year 2014, when the Prime Minister Narendra Modi launched a Swachh Bharat mission to a ban on identified single-use plastic items that was notified by the Ministry of Environment and came into effect in 2022. India has been adopting innovative packages as well on this. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.